I'm heading up to Grizzly. We've been, if you watched the last video, you knew we were working on tin cup a lot. So being up there 4 days in the span of a week kind of put a damper on looking at other trails. So I'm back up on Grizzly today. We're going to go see what the snow conditions look like, how the road looks, if there's any down timber, and we'll compare it to some of the past years that we have pictures and snow reports from, and see how it looks. Grizzly was the first trail we ever adopted as an organization core back in 2018, first part of 2018, and then we did a bunch of work up here to put the kiosk in, the winch anchors, and we used the money. We were actually awarded the BF Goodrich Outstanding Trails Grant in 2018 for Grizzly, and that's kind of how we funded all this work here at the obstacle, so we could keep the obstacle intact, still have a bit of a challenge for people, but then make it passable. Obviously if you needed a winch at the same time. See how it does today. Just like clockwork. Yep. And then once you bump it, turn this way. So bump it from there and turn this way. Oh, yeah. There it is. Okay, 2 vehicles up. We'll go see what the rest of the road looks like up here. Right after the creek here, the old road kind of made a sweeping switch back to the left, and then at some point this shortcut formed, and it's kind of fun to climb up over these big rocks kind of up this chute. So most of the time that we're up here, I try and take the right line just for fun. I don't know why this open hillside is probably, I like the whole trail. Grizzly is probably easily my favorite trail around St. Elmo. And the whole trail is fun, but I do really enjoy this loose open hillside. It's really cool on the way back when you're looking down and you can see some of the buildings and structures around St. Elmo for the view. But I always thought this narrow old mining road just across this open steep slope was really fun to drive up. Coming up on the second creek crossing now. It's usually kind of dark down here, so sometimes snow hangs. Nothing really left in the road, and it's running a little bit, but definitely still a ways from high water. Peak water in the Arkansas Valley is usually between the first and second week of June is usually when we have peak water, so we're still several weeks away from that. Just a tad bit of snow in the shade over here on the other side, but not much. We're coming up to one of the first big indicators early season of how far you're going to be able to get on Grizzly now, which is the first Avalanche chute here. And this Avalanche runs every year, sometimes more, sometimes less, and depending on how much snow is here in the snowfield can determine whether or not you're able to get across the Avalanche field and continue up the road. So we'll see when we get up here. This is what the Avi chute looks like. Not a big run this year. Nothing really still remaining down at the bottom end of it. You can see a little debris here and there, but nothing of note. So a little bit less of a year for avalanche debris and snow buildup. There's still a little tail of it left here in the road. Not a lot. I mean, there's been years we come around the corner there and there's a 10-foot, 15-foot pile of snow. We're pretty easy to be able to walk, just crawl right through the middle of that with the vehicle. And Sean's down there just dropping a little bit more air pressure before coming up through those tracks. So we'll watch him as he comes through. So Sean got done dropping some air pressure in those tires. Grizzly's a weird one early in the season because if you drop too much pressure down low, you can hang the belly on that first obstacle. But then when we get into snow wheeling later on, you'll want the really low single-digit pressure so you can try and stay on top or have really good flotation in the snow. So sometimes we leave them full for the first part and then drop them lower once we get farther up. That's about halfway. This rock slide usually it's around 1.5 miles and the rest of the trail is about 3 total. So we're about halfway up. And for the most part, if you can get through this section and it's not insane down here, you have a good shot at getting to the lake if you're the first ones up in the season. So we'll go check. This is probably one of my favorite parts of any trail we're ever on, just kind of how the stream cascades out of this wetland area up here with the jaggedness of the valley and the pretty neat, rugged, old mining road. I mean, Grizzly is still a tight, twisty old mining road. It hasn't been widened out like Hancock or Tin Cup or some of these other routes with a lot of traffic. It's still very, very narrow, twisty old trail, which is really cool. This is kind of the second Abbey field, second rock slide. There's a little bit more snow in this one today. So we'll see if we can creep across. I'm not sure. We'll see how it looks. And it's starting to get through it. This one was no joke. I was at about 4 psi and could not even get halfway out into the middle of this. And then we tried like 5 or 6 different angles on it and nothing would bite or hold. So we backed out of it, dropped down to 1 psi, and now it's at least able to chew through there a little bit. We'll see if it'll continue all the way through, or if we'll have to back up and try a couple different angles on it. Sometimes that helps too. We were able to creep through that. I had to back up, and just sometimes if you back up, your front tire will smash the snow down enough if you back up 5-10 feet so that then it clears it out for the back tire to follow in the same trench. So we were able to get across there, and now we'll see if Sean can. It was real hard on the uphill side, so we actually floated over the top and kind of dug a downhill trench. So we'll see if he can kind of follow along the same line and do it. Hill. There you go. Let's see if you back up just a little bit. Right there. Now see if you can come forward. So Sean ended up having a problem with his winch cable, so we're going to try and see if we can get a little bit better pull coming from me down to him. See if we can get it, this Jeep at least coming up and over a little bit. I think I was stuck down there pretty good, but it's coming. There we go. That's better. So we'll have them hold up, we'll unhook, and I'll turn around and go from there. And if you want to, like 1 psi works really good in the snow, but if you're out of the snow, this is what 1 psi looks like. So I'll have to fill those back up a little bit at least so we can turn around. All right, here we go. On the road again. Got the front tires filled up enough to at least turn around and keep going forward. And then we'll go through the last push here where it starts getting into this dark timber. Sometimes it's deep snow and some off camber, so check it out. Yeah, keep going. We're getting there. We're just about to the big Avi field that we had to kind of reroute the road with in 2019. There's usually a lot of water in that section too, so we can snake through the rest of these trees. We'll be at that Avi shoot. So here's the Avi field from 2019 that we had to do some considerable work on. This whole road was buried, and it kind of split here through the willows. So you kind of go the high route or low route. We just made a single route through then when we reopened it, and it's a drainage too, so a lot of times you'll get water that stands in here, and we've come in and drained it a few times, and it looks like there's still some considerable water standing in it now, so we might have to do a little work and open some of these drains that we've cut just to make sure that it drains out, because I mean it's pretty deep on a 42, that water. That's a drain right there, so it's just plugged. So on our way down we'll move those logs. That's what happens sometimes in winter. Things get shifted around and clean that out, so it's definitely not that deep as we get this open for the season. So here we are, parking area. You know, it took us a couple hours to get up through some of those sections. Obviously winching once to get through that, and then just kind of outside of that, just kind of meandered our way up here. Wasn't terrible. And, we'll look at the snow levels and the ice on the lake once we get up here and you can see it. So we made it up here to the parking lot. And this, we'll go down to the lake in a second, but if I walk between the Jeeps, you can see out there that not only is the basin full of snow up there, but most of the lake is still under ice. We'll walk down to the side in a second so you can see it, but that's what the lake looks like from the parking lot. Walk through some deep snow back there, almost up to my hips, so I'm a little out of breath all of a sudden. But let's talk some dates, past years, just information. I'm always into data. If you watch our videos, talk about snow tails, snow depth, even water levels in creeks and how you can find that information. But this year, for whatever reason, I don't usually watch regular TV ever. Just not into sensationalistic media. And a pretty good example is this year, because I've seen some stuff where people will share news feeds from our local news in Denver stations. And I think one week I would see, well, Colorado snowpack's down to 46%. And then the next week somebody else would share one from a different station, and they'd say, well, Colorado snowpack's down to 53%. And I was like, wow, it's actually going up, because last week it was at 46%. So, and it always comes with like a dire warning, like this is the worst year ever. It never snows in Colorado anymore. We don't get snow like we used to. And I even saw one that's like our snowpack is going to be totally gone by June. And it's May 22nd today when I'm filming this part of the video. And we're not far away from June at all. It's Memorial Day weekend coming up. And when I show you what it looks like up here, and I tell you the dates of past years, and even some of my own personal family history, you'll probably be shocked that maybe some of that information about being the worst year ever, or never snows in the mountains anymore, may not be accurate. Because I'm down here at the lake, so let me flip the camera around and I'll show you what it looks like. So May 22nd, 2025, this is what Grizzly Lake looks like. Lots of ice. Snow slide came down into it from that Abbey Chute over there, which is not uncommon. There's a little bit of open water here on the very edge. Then it's around the corner, but there was some on the outlet too. But the rest of the lake looks like this. There's a tad bit of open water on the inlet on the upper end. And then look in the basin above the lake how much snow is still up in there. Now I can tell you for a fact that will not all be gone in 9 days. All that snow. So there will still be Colorado snowpack up here. This side, you could look at this side and be like, well, there's not a lot of snow on that. There's more than you think, because it's a lot of area. But that's a really steep ridge, real high exposure, a lot of wind. So it doesn't hold a lot of snow any time of the year. Then we're looking that way, Baldwin Lake's right over the ridge over there towards that Mount Antero. But yeah, this outlooks down here at Grizzly Lake. If I pan over on that side, we still have these big pockets. Like, look at those cornices up there. Look how big those cornices are on that entire ridge. All of that is not going to be gone by the 1st of June. And I'll leave the lake in the background for a minute because it's really pretty back there. Before I came today, I went back through all my photos since I've been coming up here. And they, I told you when we adopted the Trail Core, 2017 officially, all the years that I've been coming up. So 2018, when we did that grizzly work that I mentioned, that was May 19th in 2018. And after we punched those winch anchors in, and we continued up the road, and we drove all the way to the lake, just like we did today, May 22nd today. May 19th in 2018, we drove all the way here, and it was very similar. Low year for the Abbey field, so we were able to get across that, and then the snow in the trees was kind of similar, maybe even a little less, honestly, than this year. So we drove all the way to the lake. May 9th, or 2019. So that was the year that historic avalanche year in Colorado, where there was avalanches everywhere, and we had several on this road specifically, and where I showed you that big Abbey field down there was buried for a long time. So we actually cut that out as part of a Set Them Free project back in the day. When Gianni was running that event out of the Salida Fairgrounds, we cut that out as part of the event and part of the trip on July 14th of 2019. That's how much snow there was that year in 2019, that it took that long for it to melt out enough that we could cut the debris out there. So then in 2020, May 26th is when we got all the way here. We were the first vehicles here to the lake. So that's like 4 days different than this year. 2021, we tried on May 16th. We actually couldn't make it all the way here. There was a lot of snow in the Big Abbey field and then some beyond it. And I wasn't able to get back here the next week or so. So I actually don't know exactly when it was passable like it was today in 2021. But I do know on the 16th of May we tried. We could not get all the way to the lake. 2022, also May 19th. We drove all the way to the lake at the parking lot here. And it was very similar to today, 2022. 2023, so 2 years ago, was June 11th. That was a little bit higher snow year, and there was a huge pile in the Abbey chute down there that took a long time to get over top of that. And then last year was June 2nd. So it was a little bit, later last year. It was a little bit longer, a little more snow than it was this season. But it is not uncharacteristic or out of the ordinary to get to Grizzly at the end of May. And some of my family history, my grandparents lived in Buena Vista, and they would always come up on Memorial Day weekend every year. They're big into alpine fishing high lakes like this. And Grizzly's always the first one to open because it's the lowest elevation of any of the alpine lakes around St. Elmo or pretty much in Chaffee County. And so they always made it a point to come here on Memorial Day each year. And I remember when I was a little kid, my grandfather would say, well, some years you could drive all the way to the parking lot, the lake here. Some years you could only get halfway. Some years we'd walk the rest of the way and the lake would be totally frozen. Some years, say, it kind of looked like this, where there'd be some pockets around the edges that they could fish, the outlet or the upper end. Some years it would be half open. Some years it would be almost no ice on it. And they did that for decades. Like before I was ever born, ever came along in the 80s. And then I remember doing that a lot in my childhood too. So they would have never come up here and gone fishing if it was never open or if you couldn't get here, if it was always covered in ice. So that's how I know, even though I don't have pictures from back then or they didn't write dates down like that of every year, the exact date they could get up here, trying to push through snow and open trails like we do, but they were coming up on Memorial Day weekend. So it is not that much different than it is, right now or on any given year of all the way back to 2018, how it can look in late May. We'll start walking back to the Jeep. But going along with that, if we talk about just some statistics and, the definitions behind them. So when you look at snowtails and you see the median line, the median is the middle of a data set. So you have data above and below the median. So just because a snow year looks like it's below the median, that's not unheard of, because a lot of the data sets below, there has to be data below the median for it to be a thing, because it quite literally is the middle of a set of data. And you look at averages, and it seems like everybody gets nervous if you say, oh, we had a below average snow year. But averages mean that you add up all the snow from every year and then divide by the number of years that you have data for. So literally half the years are below the average and half the years are above. So you could flip a coin and have a good shot that one year you pick was below the average, or the other year you pick could be above the average. So, this is how it looks in the high country. I'm not seeing anything out of the ordinary that we haven't seen. Like I said, on the dates or years past, we usually try and cut open Tin Cup and Hancock late June, sometimes into July. It just depends. Mirror Lake varies in depth depending on the year and the snow melt and the runoff. And we'll be able to get over there at some point and take a look. So, no, as you saw, all the snow in the high country won't be gone by June, in like a week and a half. And it is not that much different up here than years past. Grizzly is now officially open for the season. We busted through all those drifts, so next couple days they'll probably really melt out. It doesn't look good, honestly, weather-wise for next week. So there's a lot of wet, kind of rainy weather coming in. So things will probably slow down with the melt a little bit next week. But we'll keep out on trails, pushing through, showing you information and what we find. So we try do a little bit of work when we're out. And you saw coming up, this is pretty deep. There's a lot of water coming in down from that chute up there, the uphill side. So we're going to try and reestablish that drain that we cut last year. We cut a couple through here. See if we can get this drain down so it's not too bad. There we go. It's already, look at the edge there. It's already gone down a lot. That water's pouring in. It's already come out of that whole section because it is now really flowing right here and right down there to where Sean helped move some of that. So we cut this drain out, but every year it needs cleaned up a little bit so that it continues to flow. So this will be not totally dry, but pretty much out of water here in a minute. We're headed back down now. We drained a couple places, cut one tree farther back that was kind of close to the road. I mean, you could get around it, but it's a little bit tight. So we're just coming down to that first going down second Abbey field here, as we're on the second rock slide. Going back down, we'll see if we can get back down through the snow since we made tracks on the way up. That's looking pretty good. We're kind of connecting the upper tracks there with the ones that we made going up. So not only is it easier to go down now, but it'll be easier for anybody that's behind us to kind of come right back up. And it'll probably be a couple days and these tracks, not the whole snowfield, but at least the tracks that we laid down will be melted. They'll be melted out. Cottonwood Pass and Independence Pass will be open tonight, which is Thursday the 22nd. So if you're seeing this video after that, then they will be open. Obviously, Grizzly's open today. We reported yesterday that Baldwin and Antero over on the Mount Antero Trail System side were open to just shy of 11, about half a mile past the road split there, where you can cross a creek and continue up Antero, or you turn right to go up Baldwin there. We didn't really push snow over there, so if you're around and you're capable of doing that, you could probably get significantly farther. The road was still snow-packed and deep snow before Alpine Tunnel Trailhead on the Hancock side, but again, I have not been up there, so somebody could probably get past that, at least up to the Hancock Pass split. Pomeroy, past the mine, you could get up there into the trees. When I was talking about snowtails and stuff earlier, I do think trails, the roads are a good barometer for snow and, you know, comparing one winter to the next and melt, because the same places on the same roads are a limiting factor every year. I mean, we cut out the same drift on Tin Cup every year, the same big snowfield on the Aspen side of Pearl Pass hangs way late into the season. The same two snowbanks on the Crested Butte side hang late into the season before you can get to the summit from that side. The last big sweeping corner on Pomeroy right before tree line, that same snowbank is there every year. These two Abbey fields are here early in the season. You know, Hancock Pass, there's one spot on the other side and one spot on this side where it hangs every year. So, you know, looking at those, the snow levels, the dates where the snow melt is, you know, when we can open those roads is actually, you know, good data to go along with the snowtails. And that's why I always try and, you know, look at the dates and compare conditions back from one year to the next so that we have, you know, just a good idea of what to project, and then obviously we can report back to people so they know when trails are open, what to expect. And obviously we don't drive around snow or down trees, so we do try and open trails purposely for that, to try and help, encourage people to stay on the trail and respect the area, which ultimately helps us keep trails open and makes our job easier. Seems like we talk about the state as a whole too with snow, but it's very different by region. I mean, comparatively, southern Colorado didn't do very well at all this year for snow. Just the weather patterns didn't set up for southern storms. So San Juan's and even the Sangre de Cristos didn't do great. Central Colorado was maybe a little bit below the median. Sometimes it was on the median, but overall it was probably a little bit below the median. And then northern Colorado was not bad. Did pretty well. So that's just always think about the context and the different areas, and don't get too freaked out over how some of the stuff is portrayed, just on general numbers and things, without showing you or having pictures in the high country and comparing back from year to year. And of course everybody's nervous about forest fires and fire danger and things like that, but we don't have fire restrictions yet, and the Forest Service hasn't put any on, and those are very scientifically based. They have a lot of metrics that go into those before they would put a fire restriction on. So that doesn't mean there's no worry this year. I mean, fire's part of the ecosystem in Colorado, so it is what it is. But in terms of it being like dire conditions, that has not happened yet. And, nobody knows what the monsoon's going to set up or how June's going to look, but as far as snow conditions go in the mountains, you can see what it looks like from a lot of our information in central Colorado.